This is part 1 of What If Naruto Lost His Sight. If you find the what if to your taste, then like, comment, and subscribe for more content. Posts once to 3 times a week. Start chapter. Blindsided by twice the trouble. Chapter 1. Trouble 1. Disclaimer, I do not own Naruto. I was never able to get enough ramen for the trap to work. Tilde. Are you alright, scaredy cat? I taunted. My eyes felt sharper as I held back an extremely large snake from eating Sasuke. Something inside me loved the way things stood. I was the one protecting my team while Sasuke was scared stiff. Oh, how the tides had changed over the last few months. There's no way anyone could call me the dead last now that I just saved the pretty boy's ass. Unfortunately, the second I thought this, I forgot all about the gift-wrapped freak on its head. He grabbed me with his its tongue before I could react. As I was being pulled away, towards the snake-obsessed weirdo, I was stuck between being startled at my current predicament, mad at letting myself be put in this current predicament, and grossed out that the cause of my current predicament was holding me with its tongue. Let me go, you unisexed pedophile. The person in question looked at me questioningly, as if to ask, what the hell is that about? But then it just shook its head and spoke. The 9-tailed brat is still alive, I see. With quite the tongue on him as well. Bet you like that. Again I was ignored, though I did get the pleasure of seeing an angry tick appear on its head. Oddly enough, you and your Biju are coexisting quite well. I'm going to have to change that. The id raised a hand, each finger glowing with a different kanji. 5-pronged seal, it shouted as the glowing fingers were forced into my seal. An intense pain coursed throughout my body, making me unaware of anything other than it. I could have sworn that I heard someone shout at Sasuke while the other one screamed. When I thought back on it, I was probably the one screaming, but why anyone was calling out for Sasuke when it was me that was getting hurt I would never know. Everything became fuzzy after that, like I was losing consciousness. I was vaguely aware of being thrown into a tree, then dangling there from my jacket. I felt that if I did let myself get knocked out, something bad would happen. So I struggled to claw my way back to the real world, using nothing but my strong force of will to do so. Luckily I have a lot of that. Once I was back, I opened my eyes to find myself dangling on a tree, nothing holding me there except a kunai through my coat. I could hear fighting nearby, probably that it person and one of my teammates. On second thought, probably not. Well, whoever the it was fighting, I figured I could get down without them noticing, but only if I was quick about it. Though I was still in pain, I reached up and pulled out the kunai. After I began to fall, I focused chakra into my feet so that I would stick to the tree, but something wasn't right. My chakra didn't work like it should. This was made apparent by my feet slide down the bark like I wasn't even doing anything. Lucky for me there was a branch just a few feet down that I could land on. Once I did, my legs wobbled, forcing me to grab the tree in order to keep from falling again. After I was able to stand on my own, I looked up to see how the fight was progressing. To my surprise, I saw Sasuke was its opponent, and though I could tell that the bow-wearing non-gender was holding back, Sasuke was still doing pretty well against it. He was able to surprise it with a couple kunais, a shuriken, and some ninja wire. Something I knew I'd have never thought of. Then the Tem set the string on fire, burning its face off. No, really, its face was peeling off like an orange peel, or a sticker off a wet billboard. It then said something about wanting Sasuke, and my 2 teammates froze. Again. They didn't even move as it stretched its neck out, its snake-like fangs gunning towards Sasuke's neck. Without thinking, I threw myself up as far as I could, grabbing its now extremely long neck and pulling it off course. When it sunk its teeth into bark instead of my duck-butted teammate, it wasn't very happy. I quickly found myself yanked back towards the snake person again, and grabbed by my jacket collar before I could let go. How are you still conscious? It looked at me like one studies a science experiment. I tightened your seal so you can't access the fox's power, so how are you able to keep fighting? I don't need that stupid furball's power to fight you, ya creepy pedophile. I yelled back. I tried to hit him or kick it in some way, but it kept me too far away for that. And why do you keep calling me a pedophile? Because you look at Sasuke like hungry kids look at an ice cream cone. You clearly said you want him, and you just tried to give him a hickey. So that makes you some creepy old pedophile, or Eno in disguise. Somewhere in the forest, another blonde sneezed, scaring away their dinner. How troublesome, her teammate said before falling back asleep. I'm not a creepy old pedophile, nor a fangirl, it said crossly. If you're not a guy or a girl, does that mean you don't have a gender? If you must know, I'm male, but not a pedophile. You look like a chick, I said while reaching for a kunai. But before my fingers could even brush the pouch, the girly man slammed me into the branch of the tree we were standing on. Cleaver boy, trying to distract your opponent while planning a counter-strike, he said, sounding amused. I must say, you are quite intriguing yourself, but you keep getting in the way. It would be easier just to kill you so I'd know for sure you wouldn't ruin my plans, but then I wouldn't get a chance to study you more. Personally, I didn't like either of the choices. The man was starting to give off the creepy doctor vibe, and I didn't like doctors. I went to voice my opinion but was slammed into the tree again, causing my vision to swim. But I have plenty of time to come up with a solution, I heard the snake man say, his voice sounding as if it was underwater. I was starting to lose consciousness again, but this time there was no fighting it. The last thing I saw was the madman's neck extended again and the sound of Sasuke screaming in pain before all went black. Exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. Few hours later. After giving Sasuke his present, and that so-called fight with Anko, Orochimaru was in a pretty good mood. He was still floating around the forest of death, more for the fun of it than anything else. Though he was enjoying his leisurely walk, he did have something he had to do. Soon after fighting his precious student, he had come up with a way to solve his problem with the blonde brat. It was an ingenious idea, yet so painfully simple he should have thought of it beforehand. But he had it now, which attributed it to his good mood. It was nearly dark when he ran into the person he was looking for. He dropped down in front of the group, startling only the two teammates. Orochimaru-sama, did everything go well? The unsurprised one asked respectfully. Yes, though I did run into a bit of a problem. A problem I was hoping you could rectify, Kabuto. Whatever it is, Orochimaru-sama, I'm sure I can handle it. The silver-haired man grinned as he pushed his glasses up, making them flash. Exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. Few days later. We were on the fourth day in the forest and were running low on time. Somewhere along the way we had picked up the weird guy with the ninfo cards. He had said something about losing his teammates in the forest and wanting to stick with us until he found them. Truthfully, I wasn't listening very much. I was still trying to figure out when Sakura found time to get a haircut in the middle of the forest. It was cute, but I kinda liked the long hair better, not to mention after that whole snake man ordeal I was kinda rethinking my whole crush on her. She didn't try to do anything other than scream our names. Well, scream Sasuke's name. Apparently I'm chopped liver, not chopped ramen, or chopped fish cakes, or even chopped veggies. Anyways, while we were traveling with the silver-haired spectacles man, we had ran into a random team and were able to snitch the scroll we needed when they weren't looking. Actually after they were knocked out, but same thing. We were on our way to the tower in the center when we noticed that it was starting to get dark. Considering we had the whole day tomorrow to get there, we decided that it would be best to set up camp so when we arrived there tomorrow, so we'd be well rested. Spectacles offered to take first watch. Though my teammates were a bit apprehensive, they decided that it was probably best. After all, he had more experience in the field than all three of us put together. Not to mention, first was most likely going to be the longest and we were still feeling the effects of the attack a few days ago, so we all grudgingly went to sleep. Well, I went to sleep almost immediately, not nearly as distrustful as I should have been. Exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. Few more hours later. Naruto, wake up, it's your watch, I heard Sakura say as she nudged me with her foot. I simply rolled over. 5 more minutes. Get up, she hissed, kicking me off my bedroll. Wah. My eyes shot open to try and figure out what was happening, but the forest was so dark that I couldn't see anything. It's your watch. I could hear her footsteps move away as she made her way back to her bedroll. I'm going to sleep, so you better stay awake or you'll regret it. All right, I'm up, I said, finally sitting up close to my bedroll. I figured, since it was so dark, it would probably be safer to stay where I was. I didn't want to trip over anyone and wake them up. That would be bad, especially if it's Sakura. She'd beat the crap out of me. So I sat there waiting for the sun to rise. It felt like several hours went by without the sun even starting to peek over the horizon. I was sure the sky should have gotten lighter by now, but it wasn't. It was, apparently, going to be one of those days when time just drags on almost as if it stopped. It was a while later that I heard someone's bedroll rustle. Thinking they were just going to turn over and go back to sleep, I was surprised to hear Sasuke, in disbelief. Dobi, you were supposed to wake us up at sunrise, he said, his voice sounding a tad annoyed. The sun's taking its own sweet time rising. It's already up. Impossible. It's already 10 o'clock. I glanced around, starting to get worried about not seeing anything. Sakura, we have to go. The Dobi decided to ignore the sun. What, Baka, are you blind or something? I heard them packing and yelling at me some more, but I wasn't listening very well. The whole blind comment kept repeating itself in my mind. I bolted to my feet, desperately looking around, searching for anything to prove myself wrong. I stumbled away, tripping over my sleeping bag, ignoring my teammates as they called my name, confused. There had to be something, even if it was just a small smidge of sunlight. But before I even found it, I ran into something hard head first, knocking myself out cold. The last thought that crossed my mind was I really couldn't see. End Chapter 1. Start of Chapter 2. Blindsided by twice the trouble. Chapter 2. Trouble 1. Tilde 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 tilde. Exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. A few hours later. After several hours of hiking through the forest while taking turns carrying their unconscious teammate, they finally reached the tower. Kabuto found his team and took off with them while they lugged Naruto through the door. Once inside, they dropped him to the ground, simultaneously waking him up in the process. Get up, Dobi, we're here, I heard as my head popped up from the floor. For a moment, I thought my visual situation was just a dream, but as soon as I opened my eyes I knew that wasn't the case. Now that I thought about it, I could feel the heat from the light, but everything still looked black. Once this is over, you have a lot of explaining to do, Sakura stated angrily from my right. I don't know why you freaked out this morning, and frankly I don't care. But after carrying you for several hours we deserve at least a bit of an explanation. You got that, Baka? I snapped my head to the right, pretending to look at her, and nodded. For some reason, I just didn't want them to know yet. Everyone already thought of me as the dead last. I was afraid of what they would think if they knew I couldn't see. I'd want to hear it now, but we have to figure out what the plaque means. I nodded again, deciding it was wise not to get up. Considering I didn't know my surroundings, it was probably better to just sit there and pretend I knew what was going on. Get up, I heard the Tem say, his voice off to my right as well. I'm fine where I am, thank you very much, I answered as I straightened myself up so I could sit there cross-legged. Naruto, Sakura yelled, hitting me over the head. Stop messing around and get up. No, I crossed my arms stubbornly. Naruto. She hissed. No, I'm sitting right here till I darn well have to move and there's nothing you can do about it. Why? Sasuke asked, as monotone as ever. I froze, not planning this far ahead. I never thought they would want to know why I was being so stubborn about this. I had to think fast and give a plausible answer before they jumped to the wrong conclusions, or the right one. I stalled as I aimed my eyes at the floor. At least this way I wouldn't need to try and look at anything as I thought. But I was never the sharpest kunai in the pouch, so I just couldn't think of anything, no matter how hard I thought on it. Just because. Naruto, Sakura threatened again, making the voice I used to think sounded so pretty, compared to nails on a chalkboard. Answer him. Why should I? Because he's Sasuke. Don't care. He's your teammate, you have to answer. I don't care if he's the Hokage, I don't need to tell him nothing. I declared loudly before they all went silent. After a few seconds, I heard footsteps come from the right. I tensed myself, wondering what the Tem was going to do when I was suddenly yanked up by the front of my jacket. Unfortunately, my feet couldn't get under me in time, so I ended up dangling there, completely confused and surprised by the turn of events. Why? Sasuke's voice was a lot closer than before. In fact, I doubted he could be any closer if he tried, at least without reliving the last day of the academy, and I really didn't want to do that. Because I don't like you. He meant, why won't you get up, you baka? Sakura shouted before I got hit again. I think it was Sakura, but they sounded so close that I wasn't sure. Answer or Sakura will hit you again. I heard her crack her knuckles in anticipation, making me gulp. I never realized what a force the two of them could make against their only other teammate. But it was about now that I figured out how to solve my problems. Dizzy, I mumbled to them, hoping not to get hit. What was that? I'm dizzy, alright, I didn't want to stand up and fall right over again. Dizzy, Tem asked, most likely finding it a bit hard to believe. Yeah, dizzy, I was hit really hard. You mean you hit the tree hard? I had to practically bite my tongue off to keep from asking if it really was a tree. Somehow I didn't think that would have gone over too well. Instead, I decided it was best to move on to a different subject. Yeah, whatever, I thought we were going to save the 20 questions till after the plaque thingy. This was different, Sasuke said as he dropped me onto the floor for the second time in the past few minutes. Hey, what was that for you, duck butt M? Ow. Sakura, stop hitting me. Stop insulting Sasuke and I will. It's not an insult if it's true. The plaque, Sasuke broke in as Sakura's fist passed to the right of my head. How the hell she had missed when I didn't even know to dodge, I don't know. I could hear Sakura's feet tap on the floor as she hopped up to focus on whatever plaque was in the room. Luckily for me, they read it out loud, even luckier that they didn't even expect me to know what it meant. Somehow, the two of them had come to the conclusion that they were supposed to open the scrolls. I heard the seals break as the scrolls unraveled faster than my teammates could do so. There was some fizzing as Sasuke yelled to drop them. They clattered to the ground just before there was a quiet-ish pop, and then silence. Yo, the unmistakable voice of Kakashi said happily. Kaka-sensei, what are you doing here? I asked curiously. Well, Iruka was supposed to be the one to explain it all, but he was unavoidably detained. 3 of his students were caught trying to prank all the clan compounds during school hours. Really? Cool. It was Konohamaru's group, wasn't it? Yes, the infamous Goggle Brigade strikes again. How far did they get? Let's see, they had set alarms clocks in the Nara compound that are going off every 5 minutes and were caught trying to sneak flash bombs into the Hyuga compound. They were also in possession of several suspicious items including bug spray, dog whistles, the makings for rope foot traps, and several bags of chips that were thought to be used as the bait. And on a completely unrelated topic, Sasuke, I think you're going to have to hire a decorator. Someone snuck into your building while you've been gone and painted your apartment search pink. Why would someone do that? Sakura demanded loudly in order to be heard over my laughter. Who knows? Kakashi announced happily. He waited patiently until I sat up again and stopped laughing before he continued onto the topic at hand. Anyways, I'm here in his place to explain the meaning of the plaque. I tuned out as he spoke, explaining something that I wouldn't understand anyways. Instead, I opted to think on what I was supposed to do about my new bind status. I thought about telling someone, like Sensei or Hokage Gigi, but as I thought about it, they probably would want me to quit being a ninja. After all, I've never heard of a blind ninja. I wanted to be a ninja, had to be in order to become Hokage. Plus, if I wasn't a ninja anymore, then the villagers would start up their crap again. I pushed the thought away, deciding that I was going to keep the whole thing a secret. It was the only way to achieve my goals after all. Didn't quite know how yet, but I'd figure it out. Naruto, are you even listening? I was snapped out of my thoughts by Sakura's banshee-like voice right in my ear, making me wince. What the hell, Sakura? Are you trying to make me deaf? I couldn't help but be angry at her. I mean, I was pretty much relying on my hearing to know what was going on around me. With that being said, I guess it was starting to get progressively sharper the more I focused on it. So that loud, high-pitched voice in my ear was starting to get painful. You're not even listening. Why do you care? She shot back. I was about to respond when Sensei spoke up. Now you two, stop fighting. He sounded amused, and maybe a bit suspicious. Naruto, why weren't you listening to the explanation? Because it's kinda confusing. Alright then, I'll explain it in simpler terms for you. As a chunin, you must work on what you are weak in. For instance, if you are strong in taijutsu and ninjutsu, and weak in strategy, then you must work on your thought process to fix it. And vice versa. Do you understand now? Yeah, thanks Kaka-sensei. I gave him one of my goofy grins from the floor. Unfortunately, I didn't see how he reacted, but he was probably smiling back. Now, would anyone care to explain why Naruto's sitting on the floor? I tensed slightly at this, unsure of what to say. Luckily, the more talkative of my teammates was there to unwittingly cover for me. The baka here lost it this morning and ran into a tree. We had to carry him back here after he knocked himself unconscious, and now that he's awake, he's dizzy. Is that so? Yeah, I'm an idiot, I agreed, attempting to look at my sensei. But I think it might have been a genjutsu some other team put on me. And why's that? Well, I was the only one on watch, so it kinda makes sense that they wanted our scroll. So I guess they decided that they should steal it while you were sleeping and I was distracted. Then why didn't they? Sakura asked, suspiciously. How am I supposed to know? I'm not them. I was feeling quite proud of myself for coming up with such a good story in such a short amount of time. I guess it makes sense. After all, whoever was still out there would be pretty desperate to get a scroll. Maybe they only saw the one scroll they already had, so they left, thinking it was the only one we had. Sounds plausible, Sasuke said. Alright, you three have an hour before you must meet in the testing room. Kakashi's tone was quite chipper. I suggest you pick up some food from the cafeteria. Food, real food. I throw my arms into the air with such force that I knocked myself over. Kaka-sensei, where is the cafeteria? Sakura sounded almost as excited as me. Does it have ramen? Right through the door over there. Kakashi must have been pointing towards the door. And yes, it has ramen. Yes, I exclaimed happily. It was only a moment after that I realized I had no idea where the door was. Thanks, sensei, Sakura said, sounding a lot cheerier than I was feeling right now. I heard two sets of footsteps walking away from me somewhere off to my right. I blinked as an idea struck me. They knew where the door was. They were heading towards it right now. I could hear which way they were going. Therefore, I knew which way the door was. Oh, and if I waited long enough, I could probably figure out how far away it was too. I sat there, feeling proud of myself for a moment before I realized the only reason I came up with that was because there was ramen on the line. Of course, I had no real problem with this, so I didn't lose my happy attitude. Hey Sasuke-kun, so you want to? No. But I didn't even. No. You're not even listen. No. But Sasuke-kun. No. I listened to my teammates' voices fade as they moved away towards my goal. Sakura was just starting to say something else when the creaking of the door told me it was somewhere to my right and only about 20 paces. With this in mind, I went to get up after the door clicked shut. Naruto. I jumped at my name being called, almost forgetting Kakashi was even there. What? I was starting to get irritated with the man. There was ramen on the other side of that door and he was keeping me from it. I'm pretty sure I had every right to be snippy with him. Mind if I ask you something? You just did, but sure. Are you blind? End of chapter 2. Start of chapter 3. Blindsided by twice the trouble. Chapter 3. Tilde 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 tilde. Huh, I asked, completely stunned at his question. I thought I was doing pretty good keeping it a secret, but somehow he knew. Let me rephrase that. At what point, in between now and when I last saw you 5 days ago, did you lose your sight? Sensei, are you feeling well? I'm not blind. My vision is 20/20, like always. Your eyes haven't been tracking correctly, and whenever a conversation starts you look at the floor. So, maybe the floor looks better. Naruto, Kakashi said, his tone scolding. I'm not blind, Kaka-sensei. Come on. Would a blind person know where the door is? It's right over there, by the way. I pointed towards where I knew the door to be, hoping that would be enough to convince him. Ma, I guess you're right. How silly of me, Kakashi said. I was mentally patting myself on the back when he spoke again. But I'm still a bit worried about you. So, how about this? If you answer my last question correctly, I'll let the whole thing drop, okay? Yeah, sure. How many fingers am I holding up? I froze at the question. Come on, if you can see as well as you say, this should be easy for you. 2. Are you sure? Of course I am. Too bad, it was 4. No, it wasn't. Yes, it was. See. 1, 2, 3, 4. He matched each number with a tap on my nose using the different fingers. You must have switched them. If I did, wouldn't you have seen it? His voice was closer now, like he was kneeling in front of me. I sighed, knowing I was beaten in the battle of wits. Now, care to answer my questions truthfully? Yeah, I guess, but a couple things first. He made a sound that I interpreted as continue. How did you know? Other than your eyes not tracking. I nodded. I said there was ramen and you didn't even move to get up. Instead you waited for your teammates to move first so the sound would tell you where it was. Pretty smart move, by the way. Of course it was. Ramen was on the line. I smiled happily. Speaking of which, let's eat. You're supposed to be telling me what happened. I can do that as I eat, can't I? I trying to use my puppy eyes on him, but was unsure how well I was doing. Well, I guess. Before he could finish I was on my feet and to the door, trying to find the doorknob. When I finally found it, I yanked the door open, only to practically faint at all the noise that assaulted my ears. It was like at the academy, only 10 times worse. Everyone must have been in there because my 2 teammates couldn't make this much noise by themselves. I didn't even notice that my legs gave out or that I was now lying in the doorway with my hands over my ears. I did, however, notice that the volume dropped a bit, but not enough to make it any better. Sensei, is he alright? Sakura asked over the noise. Yeah, he's fine, Kakashi's voice came from somewhere behind me. He's still a bit unstable from that genjutsu, I'd imagine. Plus, he just caught his first whiff of ramen in 5 days. I heard several ohs and a few chuckles before they continued their conversations, though a bit quieter to my relief. Volume a bit much for you. I heard my sensei whisper right next to me. He was most likely kneeling next to me in order to keep quiet. It surprised me. I'd imagine so. Anyways, this place is packed, so I'm just going to carry you to a secluded little table so we can chat. I tried to protest, but before I could, I was already on his back being carted off to who knows where. Don't worry, they won't think anything of it after the explanation I gave. Your explanation sucked. But it was believable, he said with an audible smirk. ... I hate you. Well, that's nice. It was about now that he stopped, presumably at a table, then slowly set me down until I was sitting on a hard wooden chair. Then after a second I heard a chair scratch the floor in front of me before he continued. If that's the way you feel, I might not want to go get you any ramen. I didn't mean it, it was a total lie. You're my favorite sensei ever. Am I now? Yeah, definitely, I said desperately. Sue, do I get my ramen now? I suppose, he said with a chuckle. I'm only grabbing 2 though. But if I get any more you won't have time to tell me everything. His chair scraped the floor again before I heard his footsteps walk past me. Be right back. I lost track of him soon after that due to the chatter in the cafeteria. I was starting to get used to all the noise surrounding me. Unfortunately now I couldn't figure out what was happening around me. I wasn't able to separate the important stuff from the background noise. So it wasn't too much of a surprise when my sensei was able to startle me. Here you go. He loudly placed something in front of me, making me jump. After the initial surprise wore off, I realized he was talking about the ramen and sat up straighter. Chopsticks are right in front of you. Thanks Kaka-sensei. I quickly found the chopsticks before breaking them open and started digging into the first bowl. It wasn't very hard to do, even though I couldn't see the bowl. I've eaten ramen so often I really didn't need to. Now Naruto, when did this happen? Don't know, I answered, my mouth half full. I swallowed before continuing. When I went to sleep last night, my sight perfect. I woke up and it was gone. I didn't know until Sasuke and Sakura yelled at me for not waking them up that something was wrong. So then I freaked and knocked myself out with a tree. Apparently my teammates carried me over here. Was there anything strange that happened yesterday, like a cloud of smoke that only hit you or something like that? No, all we did was knock out that other team while they were eating and stole their scroll. Then we traveled for a bit, made camp and ate some gross fish the Tem caught before falling asleep. Any suspicious people that you guys came across? Nope, we did let this guy, Kabuto I think, travel with us while he looked for his team but he's pretty harmless, for a ninja. Kakashi didn't respond so I continued eating my food, figuring he was lost in thought. I had finished off the first and was halfway through the second before a thought struck me. Sensei, I asked quietly. He made a noise to tell me he's listening. Do you think that this is permanent? There was silence for a while before he said anything. I don't know, it's possible but you'd have to be examined. No. There was quiet for a moment before he answered. Why not? If I'm examined then they'd tell the Hokage and he'd have to take away my ninja status. Naruto, in this condition it's too dangerous for you to be a ninja. It'd be even worse if I wasn't, I said before I realized I had done so. I could almost feel the curious look Kakashi had aimed at me. What do you mean? He asked. I looked down out of habit. I didn't say anything, knowing that I had said too much already. Naruto, answer me please. You know the civilian laws about ninjas, right? I asked with a sigh. That if you assault a shinobi of the Leaf or one from an allied village without provocation, you will be charged with treason, which is punishable by death. Yes, I know of it. Well, that's the only thing keeping me safe right now. If I was a citizen again, there would nothing stopping them. Less consequences I guess. But why would that worry you? They see me as the demon. Do you think, for 1 second, that if they had a chance to kill me, without being executed themselves, they wouldn't? Not all of them. Don't need all of them, just a couple strong ones, a few bottles of sake, and maybe some blunt weapons. After all, it wouldn't be too hard to catch a blind kid. I stayed quiet in order not to be overheard. And don't try to tell me they wouldn't because before I was in the academy they'd do so. The only reason they stopped was because you're not considered a citizen when you're training. I see, he said after a bit. You won't tell, will you? I raised my head to look towards him. I don't believe it's necessary to put you at risk like that. You mean, I perked up at this, hoping he was saying what I thought he was. Yes, I'll keep your secret. It was all I could do to keep myself from shouting in excitement. But, only if you listen to my direct orders. For instance, if I say something is too dangerous for you, You won't go charging in otherwise. Is that understood? Hi. That, and I want you to let a medical nin examine you after we're done here. But she's a friend of mine that lives outside the village, so she doesn't report back to the Hokage. But what if she does anyways? Don't worry, she's trustworthy. I've known her for longer than you've been alive. If I ask her to keep it a secret, she will. Well, if you can trust her, I guess I can too. Good. Now finish up your ramen and we'll get going. We're supposed to be there in 20 minutes after all. Yes, sir, I said with a mock salute as Kakashi chuckled at me. But only if you get me more ramen. If I get you any more ramen, we could be late for the meeting. And you care? Not really. Be right back. End of chapter 3. End of part 1. This is the end of part 1 of What If Naruto Lost His Sight. If you all enjoyed this What If, then like, comment, and subscribe for more content. Peace out, people.